every day get up. Folks like myself who were called conspiracy theorists 15 years ago have proven to be right. That you've got a gradual de-evolution of the three chambers of government. You've got a gradual usurpation of individual civil liberties by the federal government under the don't let a tragedy or crisis go to waste theory. So every on one hand, you've got a potentially large segment of the voting bloc who, was quote unquote in the Nixon days, the silent majority, who all of a sudden have had their worst fears realized. So you're going to look at everything the government does in the prism of what do they really mean. There's no longer a clarity to
what's the ulterior motive, who's really pulling the strings, whatever. And
exactly.
Frankly, in the days of our basically corporatist government, that's what we're looking at. Like, who's really pulling the strings? Is it the campaign funders? Is it the PACs? Is it the actual policymakers? Like, nobody really knows who's driving the bus.
Well, to close that thought out, I mean, we used to talk about the role of unintended consequences. Now we talk about the role of intended consequences. It's just
right. It's a feature, not a bug.
Right. The consequences, though, ultimately are hidden until they suddenly appear, and usually when they appear, they're pretty ghastly. Mm-hmm. So, again, if you're, for all the current revisionist history over Obamacare right now, isn't it wonderful all these people have insurance? I'm getting croaked on insurance costs. My insurance is skyrocketed again, so I'm not seeing wonderful. I'm not seeing any love. I'm the type of person that allegedly I was going to save $2,500 a year, and it's gone up by more than double that. So anything this government does, I look at with a degree of suspicion, with cynicism, and a fair amount of loathing and hatred.
Well, and especially on the user end of it, watching like where the burden actually falls.
Right.
Well, I mean, even in the immigration debate, another thing that's lost is, where should the burden fall? If there weren't employers in this country willing to hire people for less than minimum wage and work them, for subhuman hours and subhuman conditions, if we didn't have those, quote, job creators in this country that were willing to hire those folks, what would be their incentive to come here?
Oh, absolutely.
So let's place the blame and the enforcement of the law like where it's supposed to be, which is on the people that are basically enabling those folks to come here.
And why I love the Liberty Movement so much is that they look at all the parties involved with equal loathing and suspicion. Yeah, it's if I fault my progressive Democrat friends anything, it's the fact that they seem to have this still naive belief that the government is going to solve their problems, when in fact they seem to be the group of people that works hardest to promote the current administration and get the least results. But we've got some special guests here today. One of our other mantras at the coalition is that, and very simply put, there are a lot of folks out there who substitute real civil action, real political movement, real change agency, if you will, with spending a lot of time on social media. A group of individuals has come together and really given all of us an object lesson in how to mobilize using social media, using it as a tool, but not using that as a substitute for real action. I've got folks here with the Community Response Rhode Island. I'm going to try and not kill the names. It's Dimitri Lysikatis, old friend John Miner, who I know from his Northern Prosperity Law days, who was also, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We want to give you an opportunity to promote your broadcast here. And Sam Tassia and
Joe Hart.
Okay. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. We've only got a couple of mics, but let's sum this up. Across the nation, particularly in the wake of Ferguson, folks are, let's just say, reevaluating the militarized role that police currently occupy in I'll call it our nation state. Contrary to popular belief, the police are not supposed to become military organizations under posse comitatus, and they are prohibited from engaging in military-like action against the citizenry of the United States within the borders of the United States. That, if anyone's watched anything from Fox News to CNN in the last year or two, that's probably a real shock that something like that exists. Technology, though, is a wonderful thing, and these folks have come up with a common-sense solution that's starting to be deployed, interestingly enough, in cities from Los Angeles to New York City on a trial basis. And what they're advocating for is body cams and dash cams. John, tell us a little bit about the background of your organization, how you guys came together, and where this stands right now.
Okay, well, we've been active in Rhode Island with a lot of different issues over the past, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years at least. And as things have, gotten worse, it's not too difficult to just look at. Well, you talk about social media because it's really evident there. You don't see it so much in the mainstream media, but we do get stories from time to time, even on the regular TV news channels, where you'll see that a police officer has kind of overstepped his boundaries, as far as being judge, jury, and hangman, and just gone ahead and executed someone on the sidewalk or on the street, or sometimes even in their own living rooms. We've seen stories about police officers being called to a residence for some sort of a domestic problem, and then find out that someone's dead in the home because of a police officer just pulling his gun out and executing them on the spot. And when I say execution, that's exactly what it is. They're executing people without any kind of a trial, or without any kind of, there's other types of force that are less deadly that we have. I don't like pepper spray, and I don't particularly like, 4 cops ganging up on someone to pin them down and cuff them and take them out. But, even if you call, there was a time when you call the guy, they come out with a straitjacket, and 4 or 5 like medical technicians or whatever they're called, EMTs would hold someone down, put a straitjacket on them, strap them down to a gurney, and take them to a hospital where they could be safely, calmed down, maybe drugged for a few days, but at least they're still alive, and they could eventually go to trial if they have a real problem. Why don't we do this anymore? Why is it that now the solution is just to come out with your guns blazing and kill someone, and then, we'll deal with the aftermath? And in the case of Ferguson, what we're seeing is a miniature civil war over in Missouri, and it's probably bound to spread. So basically how we got together is we started noticing these things. You can see if you have your eyes wide open and your ears, if you're listening, to other people. We get out in the community, and we started out mainly I guess it was probably about a year. It was about a year ago, at least a year anyways, in my own personal experience, where we just started going into the municipal court in our little city of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And we noticed that there was situations where people would come in to fight, say, a stop, rolling through a stop sign, or running a red light or something like that. And they'll say, no, I didn't do that. I definitely clearly stopped. And the officer would say, no, you ran the red light. And the judge, okay, that's it. She, and I'm saying she, but we have 2 judges in our town, and one's male and one's female, but the chief justice in our city is a woman who is also a state senator here in Rhode Island. She's a pretty good woman. She seems to be pretty fair. She seems to listen to both sides, but she always sides with the police officer. And obviously, they're on the same payroll. We started to see this as a disparity in our city, so we wanted to do something about it. And then we started looking at, what's going on in the rest of the country, what kind of solutions are available. And we think, and the judge, she actually agreed with us when we brought it to her attention. She said, yeah, if they had cameras, we'd be able to pull up the video right here in the courtroom and make a quick decision without any arguments. So it seemed like it was a good idea. So that's kind of how we got started, was actually just doing some local activism.
Now, if anyone's seen, let's go back to the 2 prominent recent shootings. When I say prominent, that's not to minimize the impact of any individual who suffered at the hands of the police. Let's just take the 2 that have been decided by the media to be prominent. And that would, of course, be Trayvon, and that would, of course, be Ferguson. In both cases, the actions that were involved that day were clouded by the behavior of the individual in their prior lives. What to me is going to be stunning is what's happening in Cleveland. Because there, and I've seen the video 1,000 times already, there you had a 12-year-old child waving around an air pistol. Dangerous behavior. And it's difficult to put yourself in the position of a policeman, an honest policeman who's trying to make the right choice. However, that being said, to watch the video, and I'm sure you guys have seen it,
yes,
where the police cruiser pulls right up next to and it's a child, it's a 12-year-old child, and takes the kid out right away on video. This, to me, is the game changer, because it's going to be very difficult to take this individual's past life and hold it against them. Back in the days of the Clinton regime, they called it the nuts and sluts defense. If someone came up and popped out of the woodwork to claim this or that, they would, in almost a Soviet manner, they would pick apart the person's personal life and try to, paint them as a lunatic. You look at what happened in Washington, D.C. just a couple years ago when that woman with her child in her car, and there was actually a stunning piece, I believe, in the New York Times or Washington Post this weekend about what really happened there and why did that get shut up so quickly? You had a person who may or may not have been off medication, behaving bizarrely, and then literally gunned down. When at the same prospect this past few weeks, we've seen people essentially get tased when they're actually entering the grounds of the White House. We're going to cover this some more. This is obviously a sensitive subject, but the purpose of the Coalition Radio is to dive into sensitive subjects and really expose them without clamoring, like I said, for outrage porn. You're listening to the Coalition Radio on the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, Facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on AM 790, your source for news and business. We'll be back in just a moment with the fine folks of the Community Response of Rhode Island from Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Service Matters is a weekly one-hour show that reaches out to the entire community. Hosted by Rotarians Dave Clifton and Rona Mann, Service Matters features guests who make time to give service above self. The good work performed by service organizations throughout southern New England will be highlighted with on-air guests from Scouts to Lions to church groups to veterans and more. Interested in giving back, paying it forward, or meeting folks who do? Listen to Service Matters every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. on AM 790 Talkin' Business. Underwritten by Amica Insurance, believing first and foremost in community service.
If you're looking for plumbing, heating, and drainage supplies, it's safe to say you need them right now. Well, don't waste any more time. We have what you need right here at Seekonk Supply. It's no wonder that after 50 years in the business, Seekonk Supply has become a trusted source for plumbers, general contractors, and excavators. Locations in Rehoboth, Providence, North Attleboro, and our newest store in Bridgewater, Mass. Seekonk Supply gets the job done right. Check out SeekonkSupply.com for more info. Seekonk Supply. Never standing still, always on the move.
TrueCar is changing car buying forever. Hi, it's Leah. TrueCar helps car buyers get rid of the fear that they might overpay. Just in the first 6 months of this year, over 275,000 cars were sold by the TrueCar Certified Dealer Network. And TrueCar users save an average of $3,221 off MSRP. When you're ready to buy a car, just follow 3 easy steps. First, go to TrueCar.com and find out what others paid for the car you want. Then, register to see upfront pricing information and lock in your savings. Third step, simple. Just print out your savings certificate and take it to the TrueCar Certified Dealer for a better, hassle-free car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. To see how much you can save on the car you want, simply download the TrueCar mobile app or visit TrueCar.com today. That's TrueCar.com.
This is the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. Home prices keep going up, especially in cities investors are interested in. RealtyTrack says the median price of single-family homes and condos in October was $193,000, up 16% from a year ago to the highest level since September 2008. But Darren Bloomquist, vice president at RealtyTrack, says the hot money from investors is moving out of places like Phoenix, Atlanta, and many California markets and into the late-blooming markets instead.
Investors are going to go where they can find homes in the price ranges that they want. And many of those popular markets last year are picked over, and so these investors are moving on to the second and third tier markets in the country.
And Bloomquist says those second and third tier markets include Toledo, Detroit, Cleveland, and Dayton, Ohio, along with Memphis, Austin, Miami, Houston, Cincinnati, and Chicago. And that's the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
Shell V-Power Premium Gasoline is Ferrari's choice for improved performance. It removes an average of 60% of performance-robbing gunk on intake valves left by low-quality premium gasolines. And it starts with your very first tank. So you're not just filling up with over 60 years of Shell and Ferrari technology and innovation. You're also filling up with choose Shell V-Power and let the excitement begin.
Cloud may be just another overused buzzword, but the cloud is an effective computing environment that can save your business time and money. Barracuda Networks is no stranger to the cloud. In fact, all of our security and storage solutions connect to the cloud for continuous updates and off-site redundancy. Barracuda's cloud also plays host to our email